What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that the month of June is treating you well. Unfortunately, June is the driest month of the year, of the calendar year, when it comes to the National Football League. Not a whole lot happening this month, obviously, as it pertains to football. We have to rely on the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals, baseball season, college World Series, different sorts of things to kind of, quench our sports thirst until we get to late July when training camp officially kicks off. But because it is this time of year, we do something here on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. I do something here. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. We are the most subscribed to individual team channel across all of the SB Nation universe. By the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads, you can do so at RJ Ochoa or on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. But we do something here around this time of year called our roster breakdown series. That's what we're working on today, what we're kicking off today, dropping this video on the channel, the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel, that is on Tuesday, June the 11th. So every Tuesday and Thursday here on the channel, you will get me breaking down a position on the Cowboys roster as we tick closer and closer and closer to training camp. We'll do all the offense, and we'll do all the defense. We'll do the specialists. We'll do the coaching staff. We'll kind of do some final thoughts, obviously. And then once training camp gets here, you know that I have you covered in terms of daily updates, things you need to know, et cetera, because football season will have arrived in earnest. But for now, these are the last grains of sand in the hourglass. We've made it all this way through free agency, the draft, et cetera. Now we just have to kind of bide our time and assess the group the Cowboys are taking with them to training camp. Now, I do want to say we're going to be putting names on a sheet for you to look at, and they are going to be all of the players who are on the roster at the moment. Some obviously are well known. Some are definitely going to make the roster. Some are on the bubble. Some we are pretty certain are not going to make the team. We'll obviously uncover these things as we go along throughout the series. But today we are kicking things off with the most important position in the game, and that is QB 1 and 2 and 3, the quarterback position. The Dallas Cowboys currently have 3 quarterbacks on their roster. None of them are under contract beyond 2024, which makes this a very interesting situation. Let's go ahead and get to it. A quick shout out to Bear, who is on the couch. He's a little bit under the weather, Bear is. He's feeling okay, but he's a sleepy boy, so hopefully he is calm throughout the duration of this video. Honey is in the rest of the house being a rowdy little lady because that's how she likes to roll. Anyway, let's take a look. Here are the 3 quarterbacks on the Dallas Cowboys roster. You see the starter, Dak Prescott, obviously. Depth, Trey Lance, Cooper Rush. I've alphabetized them there in terms of last name. It doesn't necessarily mean anything quite yet. Notes, I don't have any. Notes, we'll kind of get to that column as we get further into the roster breakdown series because, when you're talking about 3 players, and this is really chalk, there isn't a whole lot to kind of add other than what we're going to talk about here. So let's get things started with Dak Prescott, QB1 of the Dallas Cowboys, one of the more underappreciated players in Dallas Cowboys franchise history. That's right. I said it. You can take it and you can be okay with it, and you can just kind of accept that it is the truth. Underappreciated, underranked, over-criticized, sometimes not properly criticized. I'll even say that. I think sometimes when it comes to Dak, when it comes to sensitive subjects related to the Cowboys, because the fan base is so large, you have people that defend certain ideas and they sort of over-defend the idea. Then you can't criticize a player or a person or a coach or whatever the case may be. So there is a happy medium, and it is my opinion, this professional opinion, that Dak is one of the very best quarterbacks in the NFL. And if you don't believe me, well, let's take a look at some information. Shout out to RBSDM for all the fantastic work they do. What you're looking at here is EPA relative to the 2023 season, EPA per play, that is. And as you can see, Dak Prescott right there near the right side of your screen. Brock Purdy, an incredibly efficient player and passer and quarterback in general. Dak is right there. He finished second in MVP voting. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know right now. He is one of the best. He is the longest tenured starting quarterback with his team in the NFL. What that means, in case you were unaware, nobody has been the starting quarterback for their team, for their active team, longer than Dak Prescott has for the Dallas Cowboys. It's kind of crazy when you really think about it that we are entering year 9 for Dak Prescott. It's amazing, but that's how time works. It just kind of moves and moves and moves and moves. Let's take a look at the numbers behind what you were just looking at here. EPA plus CPA OE composite. nailed the acronym right there. You see Brock Purdy number 1, Dak Prescott number 2. If we go to adjusted EPA per play, Dak Prescott number 2. If we go to EPA per play in general, Dak Prescott number 2. Success rate, Dak Prescott number 2. Completion percentage, if you want to weed out, some relevant information, whatever, Dak is number 9, but some of these quarterbacks are a little bit more cautious with the football. Expected completion percentage, we've got Dak Prescott coming all the way down here because he is awesome. His completion percentage is outperforming what his expectation is. The point here is that Dak Prescott is one of the very best quarterbacks in the NFL. If you think these are just numbers, if you think these are just goofy stats, look at who we're looking at here. This list: Brock Purdy, Dak, Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, a bit underappreciated. Kirk Cousins, I will argue all day long, underappreciated. Jalen Hurts, we talked about how sometimes guys become overranked and underranked, whatever. I think people have gone too far with the Jalen Hurts criticism. He is a very fine quarterback. But maybe not as good as that 2022 season would have indicated. The reigning MVP, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, the best player in the world, Jordan Love, Jared Goff. You see my point here. CJ Stroud, the toast of the town, the belle of the balls, down here at 12th. And I don't say that to act like he is not a great player. The reality of the situation is that Dak Prescott is one of the very best quarterbacks in the NFL. You definitely know somebody who disagrees with that. It definitely causes them to lose sleep on a nightly basis that he is as good as he is, because they do not want to admit it. They're never going to admit it. And what you can do is continually show them data point after data point, fact after fact, objective piece of evidence after objective piece of evidence. And they are still, I promise you, going to make up things and move the goalposts to tell you why he isn't as good as all measurable moments and points of information not only suggest, but overwhelmingly prove that he is. So great. Dak Prescott is underrated, underranked, perpetually overcriticized, and not as loved by his fan base, his own fan base, as he should be. That's great. We know all these things. And that's why this, roster breakdown series that we do here, once again, this is the quarterbacks video, is a valuable thing because we can just kind of talk through the different players on the roster. So let's get to number 2, in my viewpoint, at least, how the Cowboys are going to kind of trot things out when they start training camp. Cooper Rush. It feels like forever ago and like not forever ago at the same time, because Cooper Rush has had 2 different stints with the Dallas Cowboys. He was originally given his walking papers when Mike McCarthy took over, but the team brought him back, and thankfully they did. Originally an undrafted free agent for the Cowboys in 2017. I don't think that people realize, at least non-Cowboys fans, that Cooper Rush is the reason that Kellen Moore is a coach. Kellen Moore was Dak Prescott's primary backup outside of Mark Sanchez in 2016 and was so entering 2017. I'm talking obviously about on paper. I know that Kellen was ahead of Dak before he broke his ankle in 2016, but he entered 2017 as QB2 behind Dak on the Cowboys roster. Cooper Rush, then an undrafted free agent, outplayed him, outshined him, outdid him in every single way, and pushed Kellen into the coaching ranks for the 2018 season when he was the quarterback's coach and the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys forever, before jumping to the Los Angeles Chargers, where he was totally going to set the world on fire, and that didn't happen. And now he's with the Philadelphia Eagles. We will see how that ultimately works out. But Cooper Rush, I was against bringing him back. Hands up. I thought it was silly. I thought it was ridiculous. Prove me wrong. I ate a lot of crow with that 5-game stretch in 2022. He was wonderful. Shout out to Cooper Rush. And ultimately, he has carved out a very, very fine NFL career for himself. I don't think that Cooper Rush gets enough credit for how talented of a player he is. We talk so much about Tony Romo, and we should, because of the career that he had for the Cowboys, because it was better. There's no doubt about that, having come as an undrafted free agent himself to the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, Cooper Rush was an undrafted free agent, and I don't think that, you don't reach this length of an NFL career without being very good and without delivering when it matters the most. And while we remember that 2022 stretch from Rush, remember in 2021 when Dak Prescott missed the lone game against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football, Cooper Rush played heroically in his absence, hit Amari Cooper for the game-winning touchdown near the end of it all. It was awesome. Cooper Rush, again, deserves all the flowers in the world. In fact, this was a very interesting exercise. This is kind of popular this time of year. Let me scroll up to the beginning here. This is from Pro Football Network. Shout out to Dallas Robinson, who ranked all of the backup quarterbacks in the NFL. That was our friend Kay Adams there. So these are all the backups in the NFL. Jacoby Brissett, number 1. I've got no issue with that. Justin Fields, number 2. What I like about these is you've got a lot of starting experience here. That makes sense. Jimmy Garoppolo, number 3. It's a little rich from my blood. Jameis Winston. You could argue Jameis should be number 1. Going on. I don't know how you're willing to put Jake Browning this high. But he does lean on some, objective data points, which we talked about with Dak Prescott. So I'm not going to bicker too much. Going all the way down here, I do think this is a bit disrespectful. But hey, here's Cooper Rush all the way down at number 18. I think he is a much better backup quarterback than that if you're measuring him against his peers in that sense. But hey, Cooper Rush went 4-1 after relieving Dak Prescott as the Cowboys starter in 2021. That was 22. We talked about the one game in 21, putting the ball in the hands of Dallas's playmakers and letting them get to work. He actually didn't do a ton of that. He just kind of drove the bus in the right way. Rush always looks composed when asked to enter a game in place of Prescott and led several comeback victories during his 5-game run 3 years ago. Once again, 2 years ago. That's okay. When you're doing work like this, there's a lot happening there. So that being said, the Cowboys have, however you want to rank him, one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. I think that the data proves and suggests and, outright proves, again, I don't know, I've lost track of my words. I do have a cup of coffee here. So with all that being said, I think Cooper Rush has, if those are all the pros, I think there's one con. And it's really not Cooper Rush's fault. The worst thing going for Cooper Rush right now is that his name is Cooper Rush and not Trey Lance. And Trey Lance, first of all, given the number 19 this offseason because the Cowboys made sure that Zeke Elliott had his 15 back. Trey Lance, of course, right now, QB3 on the Dallas Cowboys. Again, my personal estimation. Now, I don't want to read too much into things, but a quick sidebar here. I wrote recently about this. It was all over the place as well. Deuce Vaughn entering his second season with the team. He had a quote about working out of the slot, and there was all the reports at the beginning of minicamp and things like that. And he mentioned that what he liked about it was just kind of, learning what Dak liked and learning what Coop liked. That was his, I'm paraphrasing, but the fact that Deuce Vaughn didn't mention Trey Lance's name, it's just kind of interesting, right? You would think if Trey was getting every opportunity that, his name would have come up. But again, I don't want to read too much into that. What is working against Cooper Rush and therefore working for Trey Lance is that the Cowboys are in this weird quarterback situation. And I don't mean to keep having the same discussion in many different ways, but if Dak Prescott is not going to be around in 2025, I'm not ready to believe that yet. I acknowledge, obviously, that it's possible. And I acknowledge that I didn't think we would get here to this point. But I mean, you have to entertain this idea, right? You have to entertain the option, even though Trey Lance himself, as we mentioned at the top of the video, is also in a contract year for the team. It's totally possible, within the realm of possibility, that is, that the Cowboys play this season out. It goes however it goes. Dak walks in free agency. They offer Trey Lance a 1-year deal, a fairly, nice 1-year deal, a prove it kind of situation, and he's the Cowboys starter. But in order to feel comfortable doing that, you would seemingly have to see him play a lot. You would seemingly have to give him a lot of opportunities. And more than that, you would seemingly have to have him on the roster next year. And so my point there is that, I mean, this is kind of, I really hesitate to use the phrase all in for obvious reasons, but this is kind of an all in season for the Cowboys in a lot of ways, right? Like all the contract years and whatnot, et cetera, et cetera. So that being said, Trey Lance is safe, right? Trey Lance is not going to be cut because the Cowboys have to keep him around in hopes of potentially having that, safety, parachute, should the primary one not be ejected. I don't know why I worded that so improperly as well. So apologies. But Trey Lance is a kind of smash glass in case of emergency button. And we're all hoping, I think, that, it doesn't come down to that. No offense to Trey. But I mean, we're talking about, this is now year 4 for Trey Lance. We've seen really nothing of him so far throughout his NFL career. He's now had a full offseason with the Dallas Cowboys, which he did not have. And so that is interesting in and of itself. And really what is interesting about him is all of the unknown. We have no idea what it's going to look like. He's never been to Oxnard for training camp with the Dallas Cowboys. So this will be the first time. It will be very interesting to see how much work he gets, how early that work comes. Is he going to start out as QB3, as I am pontificating myself here? Is he going to get QB2 deference? When is that going to happen? If it's going to happen, how soon is it going to happen? How much is he going to play in the preseason? How much, if at any rate, do they want to protect him at all? How much do they want to show him off to maybe flip him to somebody else if there's a quarterback injury across the rest of the NFL? There's so many questions here. If you're asking me how I think this ultimately plays out, it's probably with Trey Lance being QB3 for the Cowboys. They carry 3 quarterbacks on the roster just the same way they did this past season. They move into 2024. They get the Dak Prescott extension done, and we laugh a year from now about the fact that we were having serious conversations about this. But hey, it just kind of is what it is at this point in time. But we will see. Trey Lance represents, I don't mean it this way, but this is a little bit of the mystery box Family Guy, right? Like it could be a boat. The Cowboys have a boat in Dak Prescott. They have one already. So Trey Lance could be the boat. So we will see what training camp has in store. But right now, I think the way you kind of break this down, you're talking about the boat. I mean, the just like yacht, the kind of yachts that pull into the Monaco Grand Prix. Like these are the highest priced, highest point, most quality, vessels on the ocean or whatever. Again, I'm not a sailor, so I don't know the proper terminology here. You've got that right now. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, you have a very serviceable, high quality backup option in the event of an emergency that has been there for you before in those turbulent times, in those choppy waters. You can trust it. Then you have this other one, this kind of speedboat. It could be awesome. It may not even be a boat. It could be a boat. You have no earthly idea what this kind of mystery box offers you. And that's kind of what's fun, but also what's kind of terrifying about the position the Cowboys find themselves in. As noted earlier and many times, this is our Dallas Cowboys roster breakdown series that I will be doing here on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. I'll also have accompanying articles at blogontheboys.com where you can read my thoughts in written form if you would like to as well. This was our quarterbacks video, and as I mentioned, we will drop these every Tuesday and Thursday leading up to training camp. So for the next kind of 6 weeks or so, we'll look at one position by another, so on and so forth. We started with quarterbacks. That means on Thursday you are getting the backfield. I was going to put running backs, but didn't want to leave Hunter Lipke out of the discussion in that sense. So the entire backfield gets a full out discussion coming this Thursday. What is that? June the 13th. For now, though, I'm going to ask you one more time, if you haven't yet, to please consider subscribing here to the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. We are the most subscribed to individual team channel across all of the SB Nation universe. We are number numero uno. My name, if you didn't see it down in the scroll below, is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at RJ Ochoa, or on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. If you leave a comment down below, I will do my very best to get to those. Also, thank you to everyone who likes, subscribes, leave comments. Those things really mean a lot to me. It mean a lot to all of us at Blog on the Boys. It mean a lot to Bear, who was a very good boy here throughout the course of the video, throughout the course of the recording. He's feeling well, I promise. I didn't mean to spook everybody by saying he's under the weather, but he had a little thing going on. He's good now, so appreciate anybody who could send him some good thoughts, some good vibes, and some prayers. For now, my friends, I'm going to bid you adieu. I'm going to finish the rest of my coffee, which has a bear on it in its own right. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you on Thursday when we are talking the backfield for the Dallas Cowboys. Zeke Elliott, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, Royce Freeman, Hunter Lipke. The list goes on and on and on and on. The Cowboys truly testing the running back by committee approach, theory, disposition. We'll see how it goes. But for now, can't wait. See you next time.